Hey, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. We are talking about family anger, and we're doing a two-parter again because these topics that are coming up are so difficult to talk about in 45 minutes to an hour. So I've decided to break this one up again, just like we did the last two on control, and then the last three before that was on emotional mastery. There's so much to say, and I feel like I'm not giving it. It's really doing in some ways my due diligence for all of you and sharing the education about what it is that I know, my clinical experience. So I want and just examples of what it is that so many of us go through in life.
Yeah.
And here we are at the holidays, and anger is here. It's real, and it's percolating to the surface for so many people.
Right. And we don't normally we'll do like a holiday special episode, right? But this is like a topic within the topic almost.
Well, I feel like every year we've talked about it so much. And if you've been listening to the podcast for any amount of time, you know we talk about boundaries at the holidays. And
Yeah.
we don't need to do another episode
Right.
on boundaries. You can go back and listen to last year's or even the year before's episode on boundaries, and really good stuff in there. And we don't need to do another episode on it.
Right.
So, as always, boundaries is going to come up in almost everything that I talk about because so much of our life is about boundaries, or, us feeling like our boundaries are getting violated, or we step on other people's boundaries. So it just is a part of what we talk about. But this one on anger is the holidays. And I will never forget when I was in grad school, my first semester of graduate school was my last class of the day. And, leaving. And my professor, loved him, Dr. Levy, my favorite professor in grad school, just was so dynamic, had wonderful clinical experience, just this really smart, intelligent man who had this practice. And I just ate up everything he said and taught me, and book knowledge as well as life experience. And I remember we were all leaving, gathering our books together, standing up, and he goes, "Oh, happy Thanksgiving, everyone. And I want you to remember something." We all stopped and we're like looking at him as we're leaving the classroom. And he says, "For many of you, you're going into the happiest time of year." He goes, "But you must remember, for your clients and your future clients, this is the hardest time of year for the people that you will be working with."
Mm.
We all just sort of sat there and like, oh, I never forgot that. And is it ever true? Unfortunately, this is where the suicide rates go through the roof around Thanksgiving. And it's just wrought with so much expectation about how this time of year, air quote, should be. And the reality, more as myself as a therapist, is that's not how it is. That's not what I see with clients sitting in my office or on a Zoom call.
Yeah.
So I wanted to do this two-parter on family anger and disappointment and betrayal and how that shows up, because oftentimes old hurts come up this time of year, and there may be some fresh ones that get piled up on top of that. So we're going to get into it.
Yeah. I mean, think about it. Like, we all have memories of the holidays as far back as we can recall, right? And some of them
Think about the family fights that went on the holidays with yourself or extended family members. People not helping out enough, people not, offering their home.
Yeah.
All the things that go on in families.
Your memories are in two camps. There's really good memories, amazing memories, right? And then there's the memories that are like, ooh, I don't really want to remember that, but this time of year makes me go there for a second.
And that's why it's mixed.
Yes.
Because many of us may have nostalgia and wonderful, warm, and comfortable memories on the inside of there's that one year, or dad was always like this. And, and I pine for that. I yearn for that. I love those days. But it could also be there was a lot of stress at the time. Mom was mad all the time. Nobody was helping her. I remember dad drank more then, or whatever it might be.
Yeah. And I think it's a good analogy. It's like that book, whether it was a good book or it was a bad book, that book's closed.
Yeah.
Right.
But they live in our minds.
The memories stay.
They stay in our minds.
But you control now, right? You have a little bit more control over now.
And we'll get into it.
Yeah.
Before we get started, I want to announce to all of you, I am starting a group coaching course. I haven't group coached in a few years now. So we've got a new, or I have a new group coaching course for all of you. It starts January 21st and it's on emotional mastery. So if you listen to the 3-part episode that I did last month, this is emotional mastery, emotion regulation for you. We're doing a deep dive. So these are small, intimate groups and you're getting to work with me one on one. I am teaching you the skills of emotional mastery. Okay. So you do not want to miss this. This is your opportunity. If you're somebody who's been interested in working with me and coaching before, or maybe you wanted me to work with you as your therapist, but you don't live in the state of Illinois because I'm only licensed here, or you're thinking coaching is just too expensive for me right now, this is your in. I have done this. This is your in into coaching. You're going to get my attention. You're going to talk about what it is that's happening in your life because all of these situations are nuanced for us, right? So you're going to get my time and my attention for a fraction of the price of what you would pay for individual coaching. Okay. So in the show notes, just scroll down, click on the link. It's going to take you right to the page, give you a little bit more detail about what it entails, which starts Wednesday, January 21st. It's a 6-week program. You do not want to miss it. This is gold. This is the good stuff. This is stuff that I wish I had many years ago. I wish somebody would coach me up on emotion regulation, emotional mastery. So I'm giving it to you. Okay? So you do not want to miss it, all right? It's it's some good stuff. It's some gold.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like a Patreon on steroids,
Yeah.
right?
Absolutely. Okay. You will not regret it. All right. So let's get into this. So we're doing a two-parter, as I said. The first one is going to be about when this happens. This is all happening to you. Okay. So this is for the listener. This is for you who's watching or listening, who you're currently furious with a family member. You're really mad at a family member or your family. You're not just mildly disappointed. You're not just a little bit confused about them. You are really mad at them because of something that has gone wrong. And it could be something, I'm just going to throw out examples of what I've heard over the years, either personally or professionally. Someone in your family is very sick. Maybe mom's in the hospital, dad's in the hospital. There's a child who's a serious mental health diagnosis, and people aren't showing up. There's a text, maybe a text. How are you? Hope it all works out. You're like, what the hell? Like, where are you? Why are you here? Like, you're my brother, you're my sister, you're my aunt. Why aren't you here? It could be somebody who's relapsed and you're the one who's like drove the 3 hours to help the brother because he's in a way. Like this person's gonna go into DTs if someone's not there. He has no one. And you're the one who drove the 3 hours to help him so that he didn't go into those delirium tremens and die. And the other family members are like, yeah, text us when you get there. Let us know how he is.
Mm.
And you're furious because you're the only one who's helping out the brother. For better or for worse. There's lots of different thoughts about all these scenarios. You know, you think of the example in your own family. Think about, parents are going into cognitive decline and you have to move them out of their home. But there's a family member who never came once to help clear out that house that they lived in for 30 years, 40 years, 50 years. And you're like doing all the grunt work, taking time out of your own work where you have care for your own children. Maybe you have your own business or your employee. You're at work and you're taking PTO to go and clean out mom and dad's house. And you have to be the one to put them into assisted living. Like that's a lot of fun. And you're doing it by yourself or one
Yeah.
other person's helping you. The resentment and the anger that you feel is understandable.
Yeah.
So think of a scenario in your life where you have seen this happen or you've heard from your other extended family members or your friends about what's going on, right? So this is, or a marriage explodes. Your marriage has exploded and no one's there for you. No one's really reaching out. He'll be fine. You know, a child's in danger, a marriage explodes, right? A parent becomes seriously ill, right? So, one person is dropping everything to be there to show up. They rearrange their whole life, right? And they're the one who shows up over and over and over again. And the others, they kind of vanish.
Mm. I think
Don't we all know I have heard of this
We
in
all, yeah, we
families.
do. And I think if you looked at it, if you drill down a little bit, I think the person that shows up is probably the person that shows up quite often in all things, right? Like that
Yeah.
person is consistently there for the things to help, to assist, all that stuff. I think that person has a pattern. And I'll bet you the others that you're talking about that fall into the other camp probably have a pattern too,
Well,
right?
that we're gonna get into that, and
Yeah.
we're talking about character,
Yeah.
and so this is what happens is we start to look at one another's character.
Yeah.
We start to see air quote "true colors" in the other person. Now, for all of you, remember, I am speaking in generalities. I'm not your personal therapist. I'm not your personal coach, and for the podcast, I have to speak in generalities. So there's nuance for every single one of you who's watching this, and every single one of you that's listening. Okay, so that's why I want you to fit this into possibly a scenario in your life, okay? But for the most part, we are talking about what we see in the other person is, oh, okay, now you're showing me your character.
Yeah.
But you have to remember, for many of us, that character was there. Not always. Every now and then you have a one off or somebody maybe showed you their character, but you're like, huh, that's not like them. What's going on with them? This is not their character to not be here with me sitting in the hospital, you know, by the bedside of mom or dad.
Well,
Where
that
are they?
yeah, well, that's the flip side is like maybe they're not strong enough,
Look, we're going to talk about
right,
that.
to
Yeah,
to be able to
exactly.
manage that
Exactly.
process for themselves.
So what is it that you feel? So you're the one, okay? You're the one who drove 3 hours to help your brother, get him to the ER because
Mm.
you go through DTs before you can really detox. So this is a very serious alcoholism situation. You're the only one. You're the only one at the bedside when, mom fell and broke her hip and now you're really worried about if she's going to make it. You could feel anything. The range of feel rage. You're so pissed. If you're sitting there by the bedside, like, okay, mom, what do you need? What do you need, mom? I'm here talking to the doctor, saying hello to all the nurses. Hi. I'm her daughter, blah, blah, blah. Yes, you can talk to me. I'm the point person. And you're like, where's everybody else?
Yeah.
You're so mad.
Yeah.
You're disgusted. You're disgusted and you're shocked that no one, like, I cannot believe that I'm just getting some stupid text. Where are you? You live 20 minutes. You're an hour. You can be here. I had to take off work. There's what you kind of alluded to earlier, Tim, is moral outrage. You're just morally outraged at that, right? And what happens is you have oftentimes when you're that person, you have this rupture of identity of how you viewed those siblings of yours. And I'm thinking mostly siblings for this scenario, but you all can change it for who that person is in your life. It's like I have an identity rupture of who I've always thought you were and who you are showing me you are today.
Yeah.
And that's a mind screw,
Yeah.
right? So this isn't just hurt. I don't recognize you. I don't recognize you anymore. I've said this before and I won't say it. Well, maybe I'll say it on the podcast because I don't like to use the F word too much. But back when I worked in psych, I used to work with all the teenagers and they would, in groups talk about the families they came from and things that were going on. I'm telling you, I just loved working my teenagers in psych because they're the most real, open and honest, no filtered individuals. And they would talk about these patterns of dysfunction or pathology in their families. And they'd be like, yeah, this happened and that happened. It was the biggest mind fuck. I'm like, oh yeah, that's actually really well said. I mean, it's true.
It's an unfiltered
It's an and I
credibility.
appreciated it was the freshness of
Yeah.
those words, and I'm like, wow, never were more true words said, And so you're sitting there by the bedside, and you're like, this is a mind fuck because where is everybody? I'm by my what?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a true shock, right? So, why does it hurt so much? It hurts so much because we've got attachment towards them that I think that we're not always aware of that. So we have attachment. You all are hearing a lot today. Attachment became sort of a buzzword since 2020. Lots of during COVID, we all went online and you started hearing a lot about. And I had, attachment theory is something I've learned. I learned it in undergrad, and you do a deep dive in that when you're in graduate school in the counseling professions. Attachment theory, insecure and insecure attachment. So that's been a big term that all the lay people, because there's a few really good books out there. I'm looking at the one right now. I'm trying to find the one in my office, Attached, because I had somebody on the podcast a couple of years ago talking about the whole issue of attachment, insecure attachment, avoidant, and all the different types of attachments. But I think that we talk about that as in our childhood and how we are raised and where that comes from. But I think we also have attachment to our siblings. We have attachment to family members, but that's not talked about a whole lot. So I'm talking more about the attachment that is sort of subconscious, and maybe for many of us it's unconscious, that goes without saying with our family members.
Mm.
And you couple attachment with expectations of family members, and they don't show up in the way we air quote expect them to. That's just fodder inside your mind for anger, rage, disappointment, pain, really,
Sure.
right? So, here's how I can break it down a little bit. So, I think in families we have unspoken contracts with one another. They're not spoken. You grew up in the same family. You may be the most dysfunctional family you know of. That like my family, I mean, my family has like got so much stuff going on. But here's the thing. Even in the most dysfunctional families, there's a contract that's nonverbal that we all know. We still show up for each other. We choose each other. We may be the most grown up family, but we choose each other. We're there for each other. And when it matters, you don't disappear. You don't disappear when something like this happens. Many of us live in families like that. It's never said,
Yeah.
but it's inside our minds. And I think, like I said, much of it is not conscious. It's subconscious. And what happens is when that is broken, when people don't show up, there's we're having this nervous system experience. Our nervous system is getting jacked up, right? So we can feel threat, a sense of threat from our family members. We can feel abandonment. I think that's a really big one. And this existential loneliness, that's like deep and cavernous.
Mm.
Existential loneliness. Like, I always thought you would be there.
Yeah.
I always thought they would be there. Like, we have our problems. We did not get along. We never got along. We were competitive. We fought all the time. We had a sibling rivalry. Yeah, we got along when we were little kids, but not now. And not for years. We have nothing in common. They're the black sheep. I'm the good person, or I'm the black sheep, and they're the blah, blah, blah. All the things we say and think about our family members. But I didn't think that you wouldn't be here now at this time. And that's a deep loneliness and feeling of isolation.
Yeah. What about the person that you don't expect? You don't expect them to be there,
Yeah.
and then they're not there. Like, is it? And you're
You
still
don't expect them to be there and they're not
Yeah,
there.
Yeah. I
Well,
mean,
you're like, no surprise there.
Yeah, but you're still angry,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Once again,
but are you less angry?
well, you have to think about that for yourself. I mean,
Right.
that's different. Each person has to think about that for themselves. I can think about in my life, I mean, the people who I sort of expect not to really be there, not to really show up because they've got all kinds of excuses. It's yeah, like of course they're not here.
Yeah.
And it still is another notch on the ladder of disappointment
Sure.
towards them. It's like one more notch in the belt.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, I knew you wouldn't be here because you never are.
You just don't.
You're
just not.
you're selfish.
Yeah.
And once again, you've got all kinds of reasons why you can't be here. Because you can't take off work and you've got this and you've got that. And of course you're not here. Yeah, I think that affects us.
I think so.
It goes deeper.
And it could man,
It's a
that
deeper
person,
divide.
they could really right the ship if they just all of a sudden were there.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like all of a sudden, maybe you can take two of those notches that were in the bad side of the column, and you can maybe move two or three of them over by showing up that one time, right?
Yeah.
Like all of a sudden, your anger turns into some amazing joy potentially.
Yeah. So, and what happens is, and let's go into attachment. So we have attachment to our family members that I just said I don't think we realize. And, this doesn't hit your adult brain first, the whole attachment piece. Okay. This is some deeper, more primal stuff. I think it goes back to our early years. It doesn't hit the adult brain, the logical brain. This is non-logical. It's hitting the part of you that learned that there's safety inside these relationships. Does that make sense? So it's not the logical part. It's like, no. Even when the chips are down, I learned that there was safety inside these relationships. So you're not always there.
Mm.
But I thought you'd show up for this. And that that cuts right into our attachment with, in this case, I'm talking about family members, right? So what happens, and we react to it, and we don't like how we react because it's like, oh my gosh, like I, if it can feel childlike, I'm losing it. I'm having a temper tantrum. I'm so pissed. I'm like never this mad. I'm so mad. I'm so in anger. Remember, anger is an easy feeling to feel because what's underneath it is something we'll get into, which is much deeper. It can also feel absolute. Like I'm done. I'm done with you. I'm done with this. Right? It
Yeah.
feels childlike. It feels absolute. It can feel non-negotiable for you. And I get it. I completely get when my clients say this to me. It's done, Anna. That's a deal breaker. That's a non-negotiable for me that they did not show up for, I'm going to use mom, or my kid got a diagnosis. It was in the hospital and you knew it and you had a relationship with that kid and you weren't there for me. And I asked you to come and you didn't come.
Right.
Okay.
And if you think about it too, like, I mean, it could take you, if you're there and it's real time and that person's not coming and you're getting that anger starting to boil up for you, that takes you away from why you're there. Right.
Yeah.
It takes
Right.
some of the
Right.
energy that you're trying
Right.
to give.
Focusing on the child in the hospital, or
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or the fact that what's going through your mind is swirling is the estate and I got to get this house cleaned out and I actually physically need help. And yeah, we can hire people, but you should be here, damn it. You're another one of the kids. Why
Yeah.
aren't you here helping?
Yeah.
Right?
It's distracting.
Yeah. And the anger can run so deep and it can feel so permanent. Like I just said, like this non-negotiable piece. Why is that? Because I think it's tied to our values. We grew up in that same family. So in some ways, I think we kind of assume that you should have the same value that I have, that we show up for family, that you're just supposed to be here. I don't care that you've lived away for 30 years. Now we have to sell this house. You get your ass here and help.
Mm.
It cuts into our sense of loyalty. Like, this is how I define loyalty. Why are you here? Well, it may not be how they define loyalty. So that's the hard one to hear, right?
Right.
But it cuts into this is loyalty. Come on now. Where are you? And you're leaving me alone. And it is our moral identity of ourselves and of the people in our family, right? So, and this is why people say, like, I'll never forget this. I'll never see you the same. I'll never see you the same way.
You could make an argument.
I'll never forget you did this.
It's unrecoverable moments, right? You might not be able to go back from that.
Clients have said to me in the heat of the moment, this changed everything for me.
Yeah.
This is a deal breaker for me. Anna, I will never see them the same. And in that moment, of course, I'm there with them. Like you're allowing them to have those thoughts and feelings and really to vent, to express because it's about pain, express their pain. It's anger on the surface, but it's pain.
Yeah.
So I'm going to talk a little bit about family roles for you all to understand, expound in your mind a little bit about what this can be about within families for siblings. So, and this is Alfred Adler. This is a birth order and roles that we take on in families. So now remember, I'm speaking in generalities. Okay. So there's the hero. These are the roles we take on. There's the hero in the family. This is the person they're the one who overfunctions, really. They're the one who, they're the emotional spine of the family, maybe of the kids, right? What happens is they're the ones who get older, or maybe they're the one who's by the bedside, the hero. They can collapse into resentment towards you and towards other family members. I resent you. I'm sorry. Well, they resent you because you're showing resentment towards them because we're not just like you. We're not like you, right? And because they're the hero. They're the ones who meets all the needs, does all the things. I've talked about this in episodes prior. Takes the time off of work, right? And they're the one who can often be one of the oldest kids. This is birth order. Are the most parentified child. So a parentified child is a child was put into an adult-like role at a very young age, prematurely put into this role, which can really mess with people. I have worked for years with clients. Clients have been in therapy with me for years, working on getting them out of that role of the parentified child, because it can really do a number on people psychologically. So this is the person who is that.
Yeah.
And they're the one who shows up. They're the one who's always there, the responsible one, right? If I stop, everything's going to fall apart around me,
Right.
which is not
So
necessarily true.
go back to what you just said. So there's the hero, and then there's those that like could potentially resent the hero because the hero's so good, they're always there. But what if they're embracing that feeling, and they're like, well, I don't really need to be a mini hero because we have the hero,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly.
But that person needs to consider some things
Well,
too.
they haven't, and they're the overfunctioner, and that role has served them well. So now you go into ego a little bit. It has served them well. So yes, they are the overfunctioner. It's the role that I don't know that the hero always wants that role, because if they're the parentified child that was given to them and they took it on, they're the good kid.
Yeah.
They're the person who's like, okay, sure, I'll do it. And here the years go by, and you're 12, now you're 16, 17, and now you're 24, now you're 44. And you are still that person.
Yeah.
That everybody's like, well, you always been that person. You're like,
You
mom and dad
kinda-
rely on you for
You've
everything.
been appointed maybe years and years and years ago, and it's
Non-verbally.
and it was never taken back, right? That's it.
And you'd have to really, I think, do some deep work to understand that about yourself and to move out of it. Like I just said, the work I've done with clients. Okay, so here are the other rules. There's the person who is the avoider. So the avoider is a person who, when crisis happens, oftentimes they disappear. They're not the one who visits. They're the one who they can't tolerate the intensity of a hospital. That for them feels overwhelming and too intense. They can't tolerate the intensity of going into their childhood home and having to take it apart. They can't handle it. They can't handle looking at pictures when they were children. They can't handle the nostalgia. They just can't handle it.
Yeah.
And they will avoid. They can't even handle all of us being together. And why are we together? It's not because of a Christmas party. We're all here because someone's sick. Or we're all here because that brother-in-law, that sister-in-law I loved is gone and your marriage has imploded. And I want to be there for you, but I can't tolerate the fact that that person's no longer in my life. I can't be there for you. So they avoid, they run away.
Yeah, but should that be held against them? I mean,
Don't should on yourself. You're not should this, should that. I don't know.
I don't.
I'm not saying.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say.
I mean, if you're not capable of tolerating it, maybe do you get a pass? I don't know if you do.
I don't know if you do. And then there is the minimizer. And I know people like this. So they're people who downplay the crisis. Maybe they're the family member. It's like, it's not that bad. I mean, I'm glad you could be there, but it's not that bad. She'll be fine. They'll be fine. They might use positivity. I would maybe consider it toxic positivity to shut down any talk of emotional pain in other family members. Like, it's going to be fine. It's okay. Look, she's here. Look, the blood work's not bad. They're going to be okay. Hey, you're in the right place right now. This is a text. They're there. You got them in the right place. It'll all be good.
Yeah.
What could happen is, and I have felt this way before, they're emotionally invalidating. They don't mean to, but they don't know how to be there for you and with you. So they emotionally actually invalidate your feelings because they can't tolerate the intensity of feelings. They're the minimizer. I think that for me is the way I'm wired. That's a hard one for me personally.
Yeah.
What about you?
Well, I also think you got to say, I mean,
Are you a minimizer?
Am I a minimizer?
Yeah.
No, I'm the hero.
No, I'm the hero. No, you're not. You so are not the hero.
I might be.
No, you're not.
Anyways, what was I gonna say? You threw me off track.
Because I want you to think about your role in all of this.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you for asking.
You don't want to do this on the podcast.
Oh, I can do anything on the podcast.
No, you can't. You don't want to do it on the podcast. You don't want to bring your own stuff into it. I get it. I understand.
Okay. Well, shoot. Now I had lost my question.
The minimizer, the hero, the avoider. And now we're going to go into it'll come back to you. We'll go into the intellectualizer. So the intellectualizer, many of you probably know this person too. They're into facts. The facts over feelings. What are the facts here, right? They're more concerned about the logistics instead of their presence. So, other people may say, no, I just want you to show up, just be there. But they're like, no. What I can do here is I can talk about and give you information about the logistics, right? They can sound helpful, But for the people on the receiving end of it, it can feel really absent.
Mm.
Like think they're being helpful, but the other people who are like emotionally loaded with what's happening, you're just like, okay. I mean, that's not that. All right, that's fine. That's fine. Yeah, you can do that. You tell good information. Thanks for that.
Yeah.
But it feels emotionally absent.
I remember what I was going to say.
Wow.
Like, I think there's an influence of the way we communicate now in 2025, 2026, right? That kind of can potentially magnify this for not the good,
Yeah.
right? Like we embrace the whole let's communicate through texting, right? And all of a sudden there's a bad situation or some type of health issue or whatever it is, and all of a sudden we forget that, like, well, that's the time to put your phone down and to, like, let's
You say that
go.
all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think it's like I think that's valid that makes it worse. It can make it a lot worse,
Yeah.
right?
Because texting, I know that we're all texting, but texting, if you see me on YouTube, I have my hand up. Texting, there's a distance there. There's
Sure.
a wall there, versus picking up the phone and actually calling. Or I will text people, hey, can I call you right now? And you get on the phone with them. Go
Yeah.
old school. Talk to them. That does go a long way with people who are in the trenches taking care of that family member and you're not there. Going back to teasing you about the different roles, and it's got me thinking about, so mine's complicated because I have a large family and there's 8 of us, and there's a divide. So, in my own therapy, and actually with my old family therapy professor in grad school, when I talked to him, knew him personally, and he said, "Yeah, you have like 2 families."
Mm.
And so there's the first 5, and then there's me and my 2 younger sisters. I was born 2 years after my brother next to me, but there's a sort of an emotional, psychological divide. So as me and Maria and Paula, they always called us the 3 little girls. And my parents were older when they had me and my 2 sisters. Life was different. And there was my sister and my 4 older brothers. So there's 4 boys and a girl, and they were their own family. So the boys, my 2 brothers are twins, are 5 years older. They all have memories that I don't have. They remember things with my mom and dad that I didn't exist, or I was 1, 2, 3 years old. I don't remember that.
Right.
And my 2 sisters and I have different memories. We also have different experiences coming along later in life. We went on trips with my parents that the older ones didn't go on. It was different. And so I have a personality of a firstborn. So even in larger families, and you who are from larger families, you're going to understand what I'm talking about. I have a more of a firstborn personality, more of a take over, take charge, but not completely true. Like when I was just explaining to all of you about these roles, and there are other roles too. I just said the 4 of them. There are many others. You know, I think about like, oh yeah, I can I can be the air quote hero or the firstborn many ways in that I have leadership. I have a leader personality. I was wired that way to be, take over, not take over, but like, well, I guess my family members might say that. My sisters, Maria and Paula, might say that, but be bossy. I was
Sure.
sort of bossy as a kid. I was, running the show. I've learned to socially work that in with friends as I got older. I can overfunction. I've really worked to not overfunction. I have been an emotional spine for many people, and I have gotten resentful of it. So I've done my own deep work on that to move out of that. I don't really know if I've been the avoider. Maybe a little bit. I don't think of myself as the avoider. You'd have to ask people in my life around me if they think that I'm more of an avoider or a minimizer. I'm not a minimizer, and I'm not an intellectualizer. That's just not my wiring. I'm not an intellectualizer. I'm not going to intellectualize facts or feelings of people. I'm a therapist. I think God gave me the gift of understanding, and I have a gift of empathy. So I'm never going to over intellectualize. I want to hear it. I want the blow by blow. I want your story. I want to be right there with you. And I easily empathize with other people. I always say people lack in this political climate. There's not much we can hear. If you really heard somebody's story, you would find something in their story to help you understand them. So that those 2 are not me, but I'm not an avoider. Like with my parents, my father's illness before he passed, and then his funeral, I was there. I mean, I'm not the person. I'm not going to not visit. I'm going to be there. But I'm from the East Coast. My family is there. I'm in Chicago. I'm 2-hour flight away or a 10 to 12-hour drive. I cannot just be there. And so I'm very well aware of that. I think my siblings know that. So I'm not avoiding, I can't always be there. And when I'm there, I try to show up. I try to be there.
Sure.
It's, I'm not, I have a different role than maybe my sisters have who live right there. It's just as different by nature of that they live there. But we have these rules that we sort of, I think in some ways we're born into. And I've watched my siblings change for the better. I've watched them do things and behave in ways that, I think it's also maturity and growing up that have proven against how I sort of thought of them before all of this went down with my parents. And they've really been pretty amazing. So I think that, and you see people who you're like, well, okay, yeah, that's how I think of them, and that's how they're showing up in life. I mean, what is it Maya Angelou told Oprah, and Oprah said it, says it all the time, and many of us use this quote: well, people show you who they are, believe them. Well, people show you who they are the first time, believe them the
Right.
first time. And you said it earlier, Tim.
Yeah.
People show you who they are.
Yeah. It's like, what's the analogy of the zebra with the stripes? I forget how it goes.
Zebras don't change their stripes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there's
So
truth to
true.
that, right?
Let me ask
And
you
we
this
have
though.
to we have to think of that as best we can about zebras not changing their stripes and people showing you who they are, believe them. We have to try to think of that without judgment. That's what's so hard
Sure.
about the human condition, because this episode is about anger and we're really mad at somebody. It's really, really hard to do.
Right. Do you think a person can evolve over time? Like if they're in one of those categories?
Yes, I do.
And so
Yes.
they could kind of
Yes.
it could shift potentially if they work on it
I
or
watch people
recognize
shift.
it.
I watch them shift, but there has to be something deep within them that has them wanting to shift. There is some sort of spiritual awakening.
Sure.
There's some psychotherapy around self-awareness. They're doing some work on themselves. So yes, I have seen it. I've
Yeah.
worked with people. I've watched them change. I think it's hard. I don't think it's common. And I know people can change, but you have to have something inside of you that you have to see it as an issue. You have to see it as something, yeah, I want to work on
You got to
this.
recognize it
You have
for
to.
yourself.
Yeah.
What about, do you think it's possible that you could you could be in a role, and if a situation is different, you could be in a different role, right? Like you could be a hero in all the roles,
Yeah, you do take on different roles depending on
right?
the
Like
life situation.
depending upon
Yes.
what it is, right?
Right.
Like you're 90% hero, but there's going to be a couple things where it's just like that just doesn't fit.
Well, in my
me.
large family, I have a leader personality and I take on the role of being like, I'll take charge. But when I go home, I've said this before in the podcast, that's not me. I do, it's like subconscious. I am aware of it now. So it's conscious it's conscious, sometimes it's subconscious. I do go into being one of the younger siblings. I am me and I'm pretty evolved, but there are moments where a word is said, there's a mannerism, there's a body language, and it's like you're right back to being 11 years old again.
Yeah.
And I'm number 6 in this family. I have no voice. No one cares. That was big. There's a lot of talkers in the family. Like, you got large families. There's a lot of people talking. Italian families. Think about different families from different cultures. Like, we all like to talk, and everybody wants to have their say. And there's sort of a competitive spirit there. So it's like you just go home and you're like, and I wouldn't say this is necessarily true of my life today, but I have felt this over the decades. It's like, Anna, no one cares. Nobody wants to hear what you have to say. Everybody else is talking, and no one's listening.
Right.
You know my family.
Right. Well, there needs to be a couple listeners in the room, or else it's not going to work out.
And I think even sometimes in your family, you have a very small family, but I think that sometimes people it's not a real talkative family, quieter people. But I think that sometimes it's like, I'm not that interested in you.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's different. It's like,
Yeah.
I'm not that.
I'm like half listening to you.
I'm half listening to you. I'm not that interested in what you have to say.
Yeah.
And that in some ways it's equally as insulting.
Sure. 100%.
So that's okay. So we're getting off on a tangent. That's family rules and how we fit in, how we grew up in our roles, and then what happens as adults when we maybe are dealing with a family crisis, we're going back home, or we're not, and here come these feelings that we had that we thought were gone of anger, and we're so pissed off. And this episode is, you're the person who's the caretaker. You're the person who's showing up. You're the person who's there, or you're the person where this has happened to me. I'm going through this awful divorce. Excuse me. Where are you all?
Yeah.
My kid is really sick. Where are you? Where are all of you? Okay. So I'm going to talk a little bit.
Let me
Go
just
ahead.
so we've talked in detail about family of origin in prior episodes,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
And I have a feeling that is a major influencer here. Right? Like inside of our own mind, right? That there's the memories of different things or the experiences
Oh,
of
of
different
course. Of
things.
course.
But I think that's
It
more,
informs us.
yes. But it's in there, and whether you like are consciously thinking about it or aware of it in the moment or not, it's like driving some of your moves,
Yeah.
right? Whether it's what you say or how you act or your facial
And
expression or
it's the micro expressions and micro awareness that we are not aware of,
yeah,
consciously aware of. They're drivers.
yeah.
Yeah. So, when we go through these emergencies in our lives, either we or the people in our life go into this, it's our adrenaline's spiked. And what you will often see is family members who are in fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. Fight, flight, freeze, and now we've added fawn in. Excuse me. So fight is the person showing up. I'm really mad. I'll use myself. I'm in the hospital with mom. No one else is showing up. It's a stupid text. I don't care about a text. Get your ass here. Help me out here. Come and meet the doctor with me. Listen to what they're saying. Okay. This is not my scenario. It actually did happen recently with my mom, and it was amazing. My siblings were amazing. But this is how it is for many family members. What do you feel? I feel angry. I want to confront you.
Mm,
I sort of want to go off on you and rip you a new asshole,
yeah.
and I am morally judging you.
Mm,
It's a moral judgment of you. This is your character. Okay. So I'm mad. And feeling angry does feel good. It's one emotion that every single one of us on this planet feels. And it's an easy one for us to feel versus some of the deeper feelings that are underneath anger. Then you've got flight, and that's the family member who's avoiding, who's making excuses as to why they can't be there, or they're a no-show. They just don't show up.
mm.
Maybe they say they'll be there and they're not there, or they never said they'd show up and they didn't. Right?
Which is even worse. That's ooh.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you've got the freeze, fight, flight, freeze. And I talked about this in the rules. And the freeze person is the person who they're a avoider. They go into silence. They may be in some sort of like emotional paralysis. They cannot tolerate what's happening. So they just get emotionally and physically paralyzed because they're not showing up to the hospital, for example. And they're silent. They're
Yeah.
not really on the text. They're out. I'm out. I'm out. I'm out. Can't do this. Can't do this. I'm out. Right.
And that could be one of the categories that somebody unexpectedly might fall into one day, right?
Well,
Because
I think
because
sometimes you
that's
don't
it's
realize you don't see yourself being that way, and you go
exactly.
there, right?
Exactly.
I
Yeah.
think I've seen it when people have had other crises in their lives
Yeah.
prior to the example of mom being in the hospital, and their bandwidth they're done, they are done. They're like emotionally shot, and so the bandwidth has been stretched already too far, and then this happens, and
Mm,
then they go into what looks like the avoider or the silence person,
sure.
the silencer. And then the fawn is the person who, and this would drive a lot of people crazy. The fawning is a person who they like over agree. They may be faking reassurance to you, or maybe they show up in the hospital, but, or maybe they don't. And they're just, over reassuring to you, the person who's sitting by the bedside. It'll be okay. It'll be fine. It's all right. I'm so happy you're there. I'm glad you're there, but it'll be okay.
That's a weird
Like
category.
very agreeable, feeling very
Yeah. They're like a
agreeable.
puppet.
You're like, can you grow a pair and be your own person? Like, yes, but that's a coping mechanism. And it's
Sure.
one that's actually not uncommon,
Yeah.
right? So let's talk a little bit about moral injury, because I think when you're this person that's so mad, what's underneath it is you are upset. And this is deep. You're now moving into what you're thinking about is their character, right? So what is moral injury? Here's the definition. This is what happens when someone has violated your deepest values, okay? Loyalty, maybe devotion, and maybe protection of another family member, right? Remember when I said at the beginning of the episode, like you can have the most dysfunctional family when the chips are down, when the rubber hits the road, something bad happens in the family, you show up. Well, this person didn't show up. So
Mm,
here comes your moral injury going, no, 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 no. Because you have violated my values. You violated the values I have about our family. Yeah, we got stuff going on. We're not always that close. We have stuff that we dealt with mom and dad growing up, but you got to still be here. And they're not.
yeah.
And that runs deep in the person who's injured by it. Right.
Mm,
And so that's why it's like, and this is like, for me, let's say I was the one by the bedside, like, okay, Susie, you failed the test. You failed the test of being there. I cannot believe this. But, what you showed me, and I've heard this so many times, Anna, they showed me their true character.
yeah.
They revealed themselves to me.
Right.
That's what's happening,
Yeah.
right?
And even more so if it's a pattern, right? If you just showed it to me again, right? That makes it even deeper, I think.
And they're not overreacting. I don't think
No.
it's an overreaction. I think that what they're showing you is that this is their values. This is a values-based injury. And I thought we had the same family values. I'm so injured. Okay, so that's important. It's not an overreaction on your part if you have felt this way before, right?
Right.
So what can you do? Let's move into your power moves. Okay, so this is you. You're the person who's been so hurt and so angry at your family members. What can you do? All right. I think that it's really important for you to talk to that person. You got to do this. And I know this is hard work. And this is where people drop off. It's like, okay, I just want to talk and talk and talk, vent about it, which is valid. You need to do that. That's really important. But now I would say to you, let's talk to that person and I'll help you. I'll coach you up on this. Because if you don't, well, it's good. You'll experience entropy. It could be the end of a relationship.
Yeah.
But you could also confront them and you could blow up or you could nuke the relationship, which is what a lot of people do.
True.
You can nuke it.
Yeah.
And I don't want you to do that.
Yeah.
But you gotta get the muscle to talk to them.
Right.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Are you advising that when does this happen? Like not after the crisis is done or
I would do it well, each person has to decide that for themselves.
Okay.
So I think that, you're in the crisis, maybe, you're going through this horrible divorce and this is months and months and months and months. For some people, it's years long.
Okay.
You could find a time to talk to them.
Sure.
I'd bring the anger down a bit. Maybe you don't scream at them while you're sitting, you go out in the hallway of the hospital and you start screaming out. No, I wouldn't do that. I would find a time to collect your thoughts. I would go to see your therapist or have someone coach you up on this and help you put together what you're going to say.
Yeah.
I think we need help with dialogue. We need help with our sentences. We actually need help with the delivery of our message. I would seek consultation from a friend who can help you with this, a spiritual advisor, a pastor, somebody, your rabbi. Have somebody help you with this, put together the words. I always recommend you do that before you just talk to them because you'll go off on them.
Right.
You're the one that's
you
that
need
angry.
to dial your emotions down.
Right.
Right. You need to get that under control. That's why I was asking, because I would think that let the crisis, all of you work through whatever this crisis is, and then after that's done, or at least it's managed.
Well, everybody's different because if the crisis is continuing, and we're talking days and weeks, I don't know that a person could say, no, I'm going to let 2 weeks go by. I'm so mad right now, and you're still not here. Where are you?
Yeah.
So maybe a week later.
Yeah. Well,
you're in the middle of
it.
It
could be hours later. Could be a day or two.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's get into, there's a 3-part formula here. Okay. So we're looking at behavior, impact, and curiosity. Okay. So when you could say to the person, and here's, I'm going to tee you up here. So you could say something to them like, when you didn't come or you didn't reach out, I felt totally abandoned by you. And I felt overwhelmed. I already was overwhelmed. And when you didn't show up, I felt really overwhelmed. And I need, and this is a sentence, everybody, that's hard to say. And I want you to say it. I need you to understand how deeply that affected me. And I also want to understand what is happening for you. And that's the part of the sentence that people are not saying.
The last part.
That last part.
Yeah.
Okay. So when you didn't come or reach out, I was so pissed off. I felt so overwhelmed. Where were you? Oh, that's easy because that's our anger coming out. I felt abandoned. I can't believe you weren't there. Okay. It really, really, really affected me. And I also want to understand what was going on inside of you. We're not saying that. And that's what we have to say. So you're saying your truth. You're saying your feelings to the person. You're naming it. And you're also giving them a little bit of the oxygen in the room to respond to you saying to them, bringing yourself down, I want to understand how it affected you. Like, that's hard to say. Like, it's like, and you notice the way I'm saying it, like, okay, well, I do want to understand. My therapist told me to say to you that I want
I
to
have to
understand how it
say
affected
this.
you because I don't really want to know how it affected you
Yeah.
because I'm really mad right now.
Yeah.
And I totally get that. I empathize with all of that.
Yeah.
And I need you to say that.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's good advice in this situation, but I think that's good life advice.
Yeah.
Right? Like finish your statement, your emotional statement. This could be in any arena in your life. Finish it with a question or giving somebody the opportunity to feel like you care and you want to hear a little bit about why they did or thought or whatever the way they did in the moment, right?
Right.
That's great advice.
Yeah, I have done that before, and it's hard to do. I mean, it takes practice. I've done it with my kids, and it has worked out really well. And it's been like, I'm really mad at you. Like, okay, I want to hear. Yeah, okay. I'll let you talk. I want to hear why you did that, but I'm really mad and I'm really hurt. Like, I can't believe you did that. And it does work out. So I may not say it exactly because you're flooded. You're feeling emotional.
Sure.
And I've found ways to let them know I want to hear where you're coming from. Well, can you let me get a word in? Can you let me tell you where I'm coming from? Okay, go ahead, talk.
Yeah. But
it's like, okay.
But that's more the scenario is like the other person wants to get a second, right? But if you offer the second,
if you both are coming at each other from the same loaded place,
not going to work.
Not all family members are coming at or you're talking to are coming from the same emotionally loaded place.
Yeah.
Which I think can be harder because a person who's doesn't seem as riled up or as emotional or as angry as frustrated as you, they're the one that's hard for us because it's like, why aren't you as mad as I am? Why don't you care the way I do?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, so here's what not to say when because we're talking about overwhelm. It's another word we use in it is flooded. So here's what not to say when you're overwhelmed or you're flooded. Okay. Don't avoid don't use identity level attacks on that person in your family. Like, don't say these things. You're dead to me. Don't say that. Don't say that. I've heard that. You're dead to me. Oh, you're just like dad. You're just like Joe. Never around, never showing up when things get hard, but you're always there for the birthday parties and you're always there for the tailgates and you're always there at Christmas, showing up in your ugly sweater on Christmas Eve, but you're never there when things get tough. Don't say that. I know you feel it and I know you want to say it. Don't say that. Okay. Or this is bad. I'll never forgive you. You might think it, and I get it. You might think it. Do not say that. Don't let those words come out of your mouth. I'll never forgive you.
Right. Well,
you can never unsay that, and they can never unhear that.
And also we've talked about this before. Those are those two words that you never use. It's never and ever, right?
Yeah.
Like you should not
using those.
Try not to use those absolute words.
And why is that? Because you're locking shame into their nervous system.
Sure.
You're locking shame in. It can destroy future repair because they can never unhear that. So you may have unwittingly destroyed future repair. Maybe you didn't mean to because you're so flooded, but I'm saying don't say these things because I understand, and you need to understand you are flooded and overwhelmed with emotion right now. You have a righteous indignation. I get that. Be with your righteous indignation and don't say these words to that person. Okay. And you can turn a rupture in a relationship, a family crisis, you can turn a rupture into a fracture. And sometimes fractures don't heal. Okay.
Yeah. It's a good visual, actually.
Yeah.
You think about we have a couple coffee mugs, fractured, repaired, Never the same.
but they're never the same.
Never the same.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm.
So, here's your next power move. Your nervous system has its limits, right? Versus it being okay. Your nervous system has its limits. Their nervous system has its limits. So I want you to think of the person you're mad at in the context of their nervous system being limited versus this being a character issue for them. And that's a really big distinction. So their nervous system is limited versus this is their character. This is how they are. Okay. So I want you to ask yourself some good questions for you. Is this global with them or is this situational? Is this a global thing? Are there patterns that you have seen with this person over the years? Or is this situational right now? I haven't always seen this before. And I don't know why I'm so mad at them, but I don't know why they're being this way. Like I said earlier, you could have somebody who's kind of dealing with maybe their marriage is falling apart and maybe can't take time off of work and it's a 2-hour drive because they're afraid they're going to get fired or furloughed right now. Maybe they're dealing with just a bunch of teenagers, kids, and they're up to their eyeballs in family stress, right?
That's real.
Is it situational or is this global? Like, no. They were like this when they were 22 and living their best life. Or when they were 28 living their best life. They still were this way, okay? Is this shame or is this entitlement? Do you think that there's some shame on their part for why they're not showing up? Or is this them being entitled? Think about that. Is this, like I just said, well, it's kind of a repeat. Is this their patterns that you're seeing? Or is this some sort of new thing? So that's a repeat. Okay. So is this global or situational? Is it shame or entitlement in them? Or are they avoiding pain? Or are they avoiding responsibility? Sometimes these individuals are avoiding pain and you think, and it does look like they're avoiding responsibility of helping you out. Maybe they're avoiding pain. I know that that's a reach. I know that when you're really mad, that's really hard to try to find some compassion for them. But if you can find in your heart to understand that, well, I do know them and I think they're avoiding something. And I'm so annoyed because they're not here right now and I need them to share responsibility with me.
Yeah.
I'd be like, see, go talk to somebody because I need you to, when this happens again, if this happens again, I need you to be there for me.
Yeah.
Because I need you there. I understand you might be in pain, but you got to work on that.
But you know what? I mean, there's pain in life all the time.
I know.
Like, can you really lean into that as a reason? I don't know.
Yeah. I think that's a stretch. I think that's a hard one for people because you want them to share the responsibility with you versus, I'm in a crisis right now. Mom's in the hospital. I can't spend my time thinking about the pain you're in. What about the pain I'm in?
Sure.
And I get that. I've heard that before. I get that. Okay. So I'm asking you to use your wisdom to expand your mind, expound your mind, and to pull in what we call in emotional mastery, emotion regulation, your wise mind. I know that that's hard. So, but I'm challenging all of you. This is what this coaching is. Coaching is challenging you to be better than you are today, challenging you to go beyond your human emotions that we all have to go further with it. Okay. So this is what the challenges are. This is what the podcast is about, right? For all of you and for you and me, Tim.
Sure.
Right. So when you're looking at somebody versus their nervous system is limited versus this is just their freaking character, this prevents you from over pathologizing the person because we can really weaponize them. We can weaponize them. We do this. This is our mental tactics we use inside our minds to tell us how terrible of a person they are. We can over pathologize them and we can weaponize them, And it also at the same time has us, it allows us to sort of like under protect ourselves, right? So not to under protect ourselves, right? So, we want to protect ourselves. We want to do our due diligence in taking care of us and explaining what our needs are. But at the same time, trying to understand that this might not be their character. Unless this is a pattern and something that is global, then that's a different story.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I hear what you're saying because I think you would approach that potential conversation very differently depending upon the situation or the person, like the history of that person. Like you're like, ooh, okay, this is a pattern and I understand why.
And I think I I think this is important to say. People in your families may not, you have to give people space and room to show up, not in the way that you would. That's a really important piece here that I would be remiss if I didn't mention that. That you're the one in the hospital by the bedside. Let's go back to that example of, you're the one talking to the doctors, you're the one meeting the nurses. Maybe that family member is not somebody who would ever do that.
Mhm.
But they'll be there when mom's discharged and they'll be there when home health comes for the first time. Or they won't. They don't want to deal with medical people because they're freaked out by all healthcare people. I've seen that before. But they're the one who will sleep over and spend the night because they want to be alone. They don't want to be there with all of you.
Yeah.
They don't want to even be there with you. But they'll be the one who will sleep on the couch. They'll be there. They'll show up in their way. And you have to let that be okay. They're there. They may not be there when the crisis is not. They're not there in the ER. They're
Right.
not there in the ICU. They're not there when you're there on the cardiac unit. But they'll be there after discharge. And then you can go home and you can get your rest because they're the one who's going to be staying the night or hanging with mom. They just don't want to be in the hospital.
Yeah.
Or there will be the one who can take mom or dad or the person to their doctor's appointments, or they'll go to the grocery store and they'll get the food and they'll bring the food and they'll put the food in the fridge
Right.
and they'll make sure that things are set up. Maybe they're the person who will come and clean. Okay. So people can do different things. It
Yeah.
doesn't always have to be the same thing. You all need to be here in the hospital with me. Not everybody is going to be like that. Not everybody's like you.
Right. And that is not a foreign
No.
concept. I mean, think about the world of business. You define people and you try and figure out what their skill set is, right? It's like defining roles.
Right.
And then you put the person in the best spot for their success and for the success of whatever the business is. This is the same thing. You might not be all that good at doing
Yeah.
this, but you're amazing at doing
Right.
these things. Do those.
So, and I think that, the next power move for you is, I want you to think about it. Is this just a temporary rupture, not a fracture, a temporary rupture in your anger towards them right now because they're not showing up, versus is this a major relationship shift?
Mm.
And so I just gave that example. I think it could be a temporary rupture because they're not there in the hospital, but they will be there later. They'll go to the grocery store. They will take the person to their doctor's appointments for follow-up. So there is some responsibility that they're taking there. And maybe when you talk to them, they will show a little bit of remorse. Like, I know I should have been there. I wasn't. Well, that's still actually, they're defensive, but they're showing a little bit, they're showing they have a conscience, and they're showing maybe a little bit of remorse, maybe a little bit of regret. That goes a long way with people.
Sure.
And, or maybe what you see is that they're growing from it. So maybe it happens again. Unfortunately for all of you, I hope this doesn't happen, but maybe, mom's in the hospital a month later. And this time, they were there. They came for 5 minutes, but they were there. That's some growth on their part.
Yeah, you're right. Or maybe you've both come to an understanding because you've educated yourself that, like, this is how we're going to work together.
Is you do the hospital and I'll be there when mom gets home or dad gets home. Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Okay. So, relationships don't end because of one mistake. And I think we all would agree, right? They end when repair becomes impossible.
Mm.
Right? Because of the history and the patterns that you're seeing. And you would say to me, no, Anna, this is global. These are patterns. This isn't just happened with mom this time. Okay, that's a different conversation.
Yeah.
Okay. Then it might be more difficult to repair that relationship. Okay.
Right.
So I want you all to remember, anger is not weakness. Anger is a human emotion that we all feel. And you are most likely righteously angry at the people in your life who've not shown up when you've been the one who's been there. Okay. You're being rageful. You're not being immature. This is not immaturity. Okay. Your response, it actually makes sense that you feel this anger and this rage. All right. The hardest part of especially family disappointment it's not what they did. Right. It's not their behavior. It's what you now know about them.
Mm.
That's what cuts deep. And that's what's painful, right? And who you choose to become after learning from this situation, right? That's where your power lives for you, the person who's angry, okay? So you can and you are learning from this situation, all right? So I hope that this was helpful for you because this is the time of year we are seeing, like I said in the beginning, lots of family anger. And this is where old anger is resurfacing in families around this time of year. Okay. So, episode 2 of this little series we're doing, this is going to be about what happens after your anger fades because your anger is there, it's palatable right now. Your anger is going to fade. You're not always going to feel, so the rage will come down, and then you have anger, and then even the anger fades. And we're going to talk about what happens when the anger fades. For many, many people, there's a grief that sets in. There's a disappointment, there's a sadness, a depression, a grief that sets in.
Mm.
And it's really the stages, and then we move into acceptance of this is who this person or these people in my life, my family members, this is who they are, and how your identity starts to quietly shift after
Interesting.
the anger fades.
Okay.
Okay. So we're going to get into that more next week.
Okay.
All right. So if you have listened this far, over an hour into the episode, please don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review the podcast with 5 stars. Makes all the difference in the world. And thank you to the people who have reached out, people who have made comments, people have written these wonderful reviews. Somebody reached out to me, Matt. If you're listening still, you gave me a great review through, I think it was through Buzzsprout, through the podcast platform. And I have no way to email you or get back to you. So if you're listening, Matt, thank you for your kind words. And as triathletes and people who talk a lot about mental performance, that's our jam. So, we're all about mental performance, not just as triathletes and as athletes in life, but mental performance in life. So, just want you to know I do read all that it is you all say, okay, for better or for worse. I mean, also open to the criticisms. We read a more negative review a few weeks ago on here.
It's all good.
We're
It's all good stuff.
We're pretty open books, okay? And we're imperfect. We're imperfect people. Okay, and don't forget the emotional mastery course. Click on the link, go down the show notes, sign up. I cannot wait to meet you. I want to talk to you. I want to make eye contact with you and get to know you. Okay. All right, everyone. Until next week, mad love.